And I'm telling you, there's many of us in the body of Christ that have been in that place where we're hearing sounds, but we're not discerning sounds. But the Lord is saying, he who has ears to hear, let him hear, because to discern the activity of the Spirit more often than not begins with discerning the sound. So let me show you. We're going to look a little bit more of this, but let me show you an example. I was talking about Joshua a moment ago. Joshua was the successor to Moses that led the children of Israel after Moses died, and Joshua picked things up and took them into the promised land, the land of Canaan. But early in Joshua's time with Moses, Joshua did not discern sounds very well. Now that can let you know that there's hope for us, because look what the Lord did with Joshua, right? You've got to be trained in this process. You've got to grow in this process. And early on, Joshua was not super good at discerning sounds. Let me show you where Joshua had an issue discerning sounds in Exodus 32. Exodus 32 is where the children of Israel went off the rails and decided to build the golden calf. And in that story is one of the funniest passages you'll read in the Old Testament. It's where Aaron tells Moses comes to Aaron and says, how could you do this? Because Aaron took their gold, took up an offering for an evil project. They gave to it. And he put the gold in the fire and fashioned this golden calf. And Moses came to Aaron and said, what came over you that you would cause the people to sin this way? And Aaron responds like a 6-year-old holding a crown with drawing on the wall. And I don't know. It just kind of happened. I don't know who did it. Aaron says, I put the gold in and this calf just popped out. Bro, that's the best you could come up with. And so it was a terrible sin, but as this was happening, Moses is atop the mountain. And then Moses comes down and joins with Joshua, and they start coming down together. And Joshua hears a sound. And if you look at Exodus 32, in verse 17, the sound that Joshua was hearing was the people down at the foot of the mountain worshiping this stupid calf of gold. And in verse 17, it says, when Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said to Moses, there's a noise of war in the camp. Do you hear that? That sounds like the noise of war. He says, there's a noise of war in the camp. In verse 18, but he, Moses, said, it's not the noise of the shout of victory, nor the noise of the cry of defeat, but the noise of singing I hear. Man, Joshua, how'd you get that one wrong? They're singing a song, and Joshua says, I think there's a war going on. All right, maybe they didn't sing so well, if it sounds like war. All right. I don't know if that's warfare or if that's a song. All right. Maybe it was like screamo music. I don't know what anyway. But Joshua didn't discern the sound well. He said, I hear the noise of war in the camp. And Moses says, no, that's not the sound of victory or the cry of defeat. It's the sound of singing I hear. Now, to be fair, Moses had a little bit of a cheat sheet. God had told him up on top of the mountain what was happening. But the point is, Joshua did not discern the sound properly. And if you don't discern the sound properly, you don't know what action to take.